making a film in LA, there's always huge challenges. It was very important for us to make this film in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Los Angeles hopefully felt like a character in the home. If we shot this film in Utah or Georgia, it wouldn't have been the same thing. And it was important to Austin. It was important to all the actors. Everybody did this for no money, as a labor of love, and that's the best way to make a movie these days.
Let's just, Austin, kick it off. Let's talk about the genesis of skincare. I know this is your directorial debut, so why skincare? How did this happen? Tell us everything.
This was a project that was brought to me by the writers, Deering Regan and Sam Freilich, when we were shooting a documentary in Havana. And I just loved immediately the atmosphere that they created in the screenplay and sort of the world and the way that it sort of spun out of control at the end. And after I finished it, after I read the last page, I called them and said, let's start working on this. And we just started, and then Jonathan and Logan came on, and then Elizabeth came on, and it's just been a process of a few years to get here now.
Amazing. Jonathan, you've produced some incredible titles previously. Funny Games, The Way Back, Like Crazy, Sundance winners, Festival Darlings. What drew you to skincare?
Well, it's always the script that draws me to something, and then the filmmaker, those two things. So I was introduced to Austin, and he's an amazing guy, as you guys will find out tonight. And I loved the script. I thought it was so interesting. I'd never heard anything, sort of looked at anything or made anything in this kind of anything like this before. So I just believed in him, and we went along for the show. I want to say thanks everybody for coming out here and for hanging out and staying. Hope you liked it. Hi, Charles. Hi, Sabina. And Austin's just been an incredible collaborator. We've worked together for a while on it. It's been amazing.
Amazing. Fatima, the score was so effective. It was both unsettling and beautiful at the same time, which is not easy, I'm sure. Can you talk us through the process of that?
Yeah, thank you. When I first started working on the score, Austin was like, he had an idea for how it progressed. He wanted to start with this like wellness vibe and then slowly turn into like a dark paranoid thriller. And so I started with some harps and choirs and just turning into this like little spa moment that would just like got darker and darker as the film progressed.
You really did it. Laura, let's talk a little bit about the pacing. I feel like I was being chased in the best way possible. And again, hard to accomplish. Can you talk a bit about your approach to this project?
Well, boy, I think our first cut was about 2 hours or so. And then Austin and I worked together probably for about 5 months on the film and got it down to where it is now. We did test screenings and just trying things, experimenting, but we knew the pace of the film was going to be critical, obviously, because Elizabeth is sort of slowly losing her mind as the film goes on and making the audience feel like they're in her head and all of these things are happening to her, and not letting them catch their breath was something that we worked really actively towards, and we got Fatima's score, and that really pushed it over the edge.
Yeah. Sure did. Perfect segue to casting. Can we talk a little bit about this insane cast? Elizabeth, Lewis, Nathan, MJ. Who was the first person to come on, and can you talk a little bit about the casting process?
Yeah, Elizabeth was the first person to come on because it felt like we needed to build the movie around that character, and she was always our first choice, and we just thought that there was no way that she would do a movie that was this small, and we sort of sent it to her just thinking that we would probably never hear back. And she really responded to the material, and she really responded to the story and felt really connected to the character. And we Zoomed about it, and Jonathan called me, and I was on a job in Florida, and he said, you have to get on a Zoom with Elizabeth Banks. Yes. And I couldn't believe it, but she was totally aligned with how we saw the movie and brought so much to it.
Amazing. Fatima, another question for you. With the soundtrack, it felt like something I was listening to in 2014, Grimes, Queens of the Stone Age, Great David Gray, Maroon 5, Katy Perry. It's clear what time period we were in. What was your process in composition with that approach? Because did you know that those songs were being used beforehand?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My version of the film when I got it already had all the needle drops in it already. But I mean, I feel like wellness music is kind of timeless. It's been timeless for a while. You know, it just has a formula. You just have to. I wanted to use a harp to symbolize her because of its fragility, but also because of its beauty and delicacy. And you know, she has it's very surface. Mm-hmm. And then slowly that harp starts to break down and becomes more menacing and just turns full, paranoid synthesizer, which is what Austin directed me into. And I felt like synth music, electronic music is also timeless. It's not. 2013 was kind of represented by the sync music.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I felt like I was transported visually with the neon signs, the heavy contour makeup, the jewelry trends, those hair extensions, the white pants. Even though it was 10 plus years ago, you identified it really well. Do you want to talk about your vision board for it and a bit more the pre-production process?
Yeah, I think we looked a ton at stuff from the era, and for all the sets, we looked at a massive stack of architectural digests, and we looked at Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 4, which is in 2013, and movies of that time, and I think what we discovered with Hope and her outfits is that it had to be a look. She had to always have a look. She had to always be dressing for what people are seeing. And this movie is so much about her sort of protecting her own image and trying to save her own skin. And it felt like what she put out to the world was so important that even in the ultimate moments of crisis, she would still be doing a look.
Yeah. Laura, there are so many great scenes, and I'm sure this isn't super easy to answer, but did you have a favorite scene, and does one stand out for you?
Oh yeah, it's the scene in the car with Nathan Fillion. I love that scene so much.
Such a good scene. Yes, amazing. Easy answer. Austin, you have an extensive background in music videos. Obviously, there's a lot of differences in this. Do you want to maybe talk about some of the challenges and the advantages that come with making a feature film?
Yeah, I think that, in a lot of ways, I knew that this was going to be a much larger undertaking, and then in other ways, I sort of underestimated how much bigger it was going to be. I knew production was going to be crazy, and it was, and we had a cast and a crew that were so energized and had prepped so much, and were ready to sort of get the most out of these short days. But I remember going to the edit and telling my wife, it's going to be easy. I've done an edit before. Like, this will be totally fine. I edited a feature doc. I've edited videos. That'll be totally fine. And then sort of being blown away by just the scale of it and how different that was. And fortunately, I had Laura, who's very experienced and was able to I was able to lean on her in that process.
Can I just say one thing? Laura,
Please.
by the way, has won 2 Emmys in a row for Euphoria and Beef, back to back.
A true producer.
Jonathan is a very good hype man. Thank you.
Jonathan, since this film is loosely based on actual events, can you maybe speak on taking the creative license on the story?
I think we just got a script from these writers who I think were inspired by some events that happened, and then they just went off on their journey of making it a piece of fiction, and we thought it was such a great idea for a film.
Yeah.
Hope Goldman herself, none of these characters exist, but Hope, Elizabeth Banks brought that character to life, I would say, incredibly. But making a film in LA, there's always huge challenges. It was very important for us to make this film in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Los Angeles hopefully felt like a character in the home. If we shot this film in Utah or Georgia, it wouldn't have been the same thing. And it was important to Austin. It was important to all the actors. Everybody did this for no money, as a labor of love, and that's the best way to make a movie these days.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to tell your friends, you guys, and post about it, because that's how people come to see independent movies these days.
That's right.
In an era when theaters are closing everywhere, you know, we're very lucky to have a really big release on this movie. So
Yeah.
we could use all the help we can get.
We sure can. Yeah, clap for that. That's good. This seemed like such a fun set to be on. Can you each tell us maybe about your favorite day on set, maybe one that stands out?
Well, they weren't on set, these two.
Not at all.
But I could certainly tell you my favorite day on
Please.
set. I had a couple, but and I think every day making a movie is a total joy and incredible. You know, it's like the time of your life if you're in this business. But the scene where Jordan is dancing in his apartment to the Katy Perry song,
Yes.
which it took us like 6 months, and we finally got her to watch the movie, and she gave it to us, and like,
Wow.
you know, for no money, like just incredibly gracious.
Yeah.
And same with Adam Levine, and same with all the other people,
Yeah.
The Cure, you know, all
Grimes,
these people
yeah.
doing this for no money because they wanted to support this film in Austin. But my favorite moment was that night at the Harvard House, I believe it's called, Austin, to give them a little plug, a motel in Thai Town, where Louis Pullman was dancing. By the way, Louis Pullman was great, wasn't he?
So good.
I just think
Incredible.
Louis Pullman needs to be mentioned. He's such a
Yes.
tremendous actor, and I'm such a huge believer in him, as is Austin. And that night was incredible. It was electrifying. I saw the crew with their mouths open, and
It was also our first week of shooting. It was the last day, the 5th day of our first week of shooting. So where we shot everything in Jordan's apartment. So
it was
Wow.
it was incredible. It was really one of those special experiences.
I love it. So Film Independent members are typically up-and-coming filmmakers themselves, so we also like to know a little bit about you and your first job in entertainment. Maybe each of you can go down.
Geez, my first job in entertainment. I guess it was PAing. It was PAing initially, and then I worked for a startup network that didn't make it past the startup stage. That was sort of like a home shopping style network, and I would look up products for them and write descriptions of products. It was exciting stuff.
My first job in entertainment, I went to law school. So out of law school, I was young and hungry and needed a job, and I was lucky enough to get a job at International Creative Management, which is a big talent agency and maybe the top one at the time, and was the youngest lawyer on the totem pole, and just fell into this business very, very randomly. I read a script and got lucky and sold it to some big people, and then just kind of kept going from there. I never intended on being in the business, but that was my first job as a lawyer.
Fatima?
Oh, I think my first, I don't know if it was a job, but the first score I ever did was for my friend's short film called Banana, which was about a religious married man and his repetitive dreams of impotence and wanting to get out of his religious marriage. It was fun.
Mine, I was an assistant editor on, I think it was the first Hulu original show. It was a reality show. It was called If I Can Dream. And it was kind of like Big Brother. So it was like these 5 up-and-comers. Like 2 were musicians, a couple were models or whatever. And the house was wired with 40 cameras. So there were 40 cameras recording at all time. Each car had a camera. And we had camera crews of like 3 teams that would go in. So I was an assistant editor on Final Cut 7 in a room with like 6 other people, and my hours were noon to midnight for 102 days, and then it got canceled. But it was enough to get me in the union, so.
There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my last question is for everyone too. This film is so unique, and it might not be easy to answer this, but if you had to pick a perfect double feature, what film would you pair with skincare?
Alien Romulus on August 16th.
Skin Alien.
That's a good answer.
I don't know. Mine would be, when I first read this script, there was this movie that came to mind. I don't know if you guys remember this movie, but it was called To Die For with Nicole Kidman. And so for me, it's always been like a companion piece to a movie I loved. And so that's what I'd say.
Oh, God. God, I'm not sure. I feel like this. We were talking about how this is destined to be a queer classic, so I would
Yes.
find something from the canon of queer classics to pair it with. But I don't know, Hairspray.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good answer.
Yeah, I think mine's along that line. This poster really reminds me of the Showgirls poster. So
It really
I would
does.
say
The leg.
Showgirls.
Yes. Yeah, I love this poster. I know the designer isn't here, but I mean, you were part of this process, I'm sure. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we shot it when we were doing, which one is it? Yeah, we shot all these when we were shooting the movie, because Elizabeth's schedule is so crazy that we had to do everything in sort of 18 days, including shoot a poster.
We should give Grandson, that's the company who
Yeah,
came out and did it. They did a
Good
great job.
Yeah.
But they
beautiful.
wanted to do sort of like a throwback, De Palma thriller, which obviously we had been watching a lot of those and thinking about those kind of movies. So that was sort of the inspiration.
Amazing. Well, I think on that note, I want to thank you all. Please, everyone, tell everyone you know to go see Skincare, coming out in theaters August 16th here in Los Angeles. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, guys.